So do you know what is the definition of a group? What?
No, I do not know.
No, okay.
No,
so
I
if
don't
you
know.
look at the definition, you'll see, okay, what is the big deal about this? So a group is basically you have a set. You have set A and an operation, some operation. Okay, the set A could be set of rational numbers, set of integers, set of real numbers, anything. And this operation could be plus, minus, into, division, or any other operation that we can think of. Okay. So this is said to be a group if this satisfies these rules or axioms. One is, if I pick any two elements from this group.
Closure property, right?
Yes. If I pick any two elements from this group, when I apply this operation, the result also should be the group. This is called the closure property. It is closed under this operation.
Okay.
Okay. Then second is, this operation is associative. It is associative. That is, you know what associative means, Ka?
Yeah, associative. Yeah, the order of operation can change. I mean the order of the operators, not the operands. Order of the operands.
So if I have A2, A1, A3.
Grouping of operations, right?
Grouping, yes.
Grouping. So now is the same as
order would be commutative.
A1 and A3 and then A2. Would this be?
No.
Right. So A1, A2 into A3 is same as multiplying A2, A3 together and then multiplying it to A1. So Akkad asked about group theory, and actually matrices, set of matrices form a group. That is one thing. So what is so special about these definitions? Why are we making so much of fuss about this very simple rules?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. But a lot of things follow from this. That's it.
Yeah.
This should satisfy the associative property. Then the third one is, it should have an identity element. That is, A with an identity element is same as the identity element with A should be A. Okay, that should be an identity element. This is an identity element.
Okay. Okay. So commutativity is not a requirement, but with the identity element, it has to be commutative.
Beautiful. Wow. Next.
But why does it have to be?
It's just, I mean, we are requiring these rules. We are requiring this set to follow these rules. Only such sets we are calling it as a group. Okay. We can even remove this. We can remove one of this rule, and then as you remove each of these rules, it will become different. It has different names, algebraic names. It will become a semi-group. It will become monoid and so on. Okay. Yeah. So and then every element in this set A has an inverse, which I write this. What is the meaning of this? Is A into A inverse
is the identity element.
A inverse into A is equal to the identity element. Okay. Yeah. So these are the basic group axioms. If a set in an operation follows this, then we call it a group. Okay. Yeah. So looking at this, what's the big deal in this? You would ask, right?
Right.
Yeah, we will see how these things are useful. Of course, group theory So group is there are different structures in algebra, and they have a hierarchy. Okay, and group comes much later. So above group you have something called a ring, and above ring you have something called a field. So these are group structures. Okay. Yeah, we will see. We will slightly see. Again, this is a big branch of algebra. Only when you see some problems, you'll appreciate the need for all these things.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So in fact, okay, now can you give me an example of a group?
Set of integers is a group.
Set of integers with what operation? Both are important. Operation and the
with addition, with multiplication.
Correct. Addition and multiplication, right? Okay. Then any other examples?
I'm only able to think of these number systems.
Oh, wait. So you said set of integers under multiplication is a group. Is it?
Yeah. Multiplication. Oh, inverse will not exist. Right.
So for inverse to exist, you need to go to
rational
number.
But there also right. there's a problem, right? Yeah. 0 doesn't have an inverse.
Oh, right.
Right. Yeah. So these are some. Yeah.
So is it acceptable to say set of rational numbers other than 0?
Yes. It's a group. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So actually, for us, for the kind of objects that we study, right? We need to go a little higher. This group is like too abstract a structure. A ring would be something which is very appropriate to us. Okay. So a ring is basically a ring or a field. Okay, ring is something for which you have a set and you have two operations. I'm just representing it with into and plus, but it could be anything. Okay, so this is a ring if a comma plus is a commutative group. What do I mean by commutative group? So here in the group definition, I not give any commutative property, right? I not require that A1 into A2 is equal to A2 into A1, right? Right. So here it should be a commutative group. And then under this into operation, I mean, into is just the operation number 2. I'm just keeping it as an into operation. It must follow the same rules, like it should be closed. Under into, it should be closed. It should be associative. Okay. It should have an identity element. Okay. Identity element. So the identity element of plus and identity element of into will be different, of course, right? And it is a tradition that if you choose two operations, okay, yeah, and again the tradition is you choose it as plus and into. Of course, it need not be our usual addition and usual multiplication. It could be any two operations you can imagine. Usually we would give it as plus and into, and the identity element of plus is written as a 0. Okay, and the identity element of into is written as 1. But this 1 is not the same as our natural number 1. Right. It is just just an thing. So identity element exists, and fourth thing is the distributive property should hold. That is, A into B plus C should be AB plus AC, and A plus B into C should be AC plus BC. So if this set with these two operations satisfy all these axioms, it's called a ring. Okay.
So,
now
inverse is not required here.
Inverse is not required.
Okay.
Okay. So now, can you give examples of ring? I still don't know. I should look into history. I don't know why these names came. Why they chose as the names ring, field, group, and all. It might have some reason. But one day I was talking about Emmy Noether, right? This German mathematician, lady mathematician. Yeah. So most of this development originated from her work.
Oh, okay. I thought Galois was the.
Oh, of course. So their works laid the foundation, but looking at algebra in this viewpoint, she started it.
Okay. So I guess integers, set of integers, can be a ring in this case.
Correct. Integers with and what is plus and what is into?
Plus would be plus and plus would be addition and into would be multiplication.
That's it.
As we normally have.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other examples of a ring? Other examples?
I think modular addition and multiplication would also come.
God, my God. Okay, very interesting. It's a very special kind of a ring. Okay. Yes.
It will be closed. It will be associative and it will be distributive. Yeah.
Right. So
things like these random, not random, arbitrary things like this rock paper scissors play. No, I'm wondering if all that. I mean, this kind of structure on that would maybe interesting, but
okay, so you should define the operations appropriately. If you define, then yes, right. So if it's just about integers and rational numbers, then why do we need to go into these definitions in the first place, right? So these are all some of the basic properties of real numbers, right? So why do we need to think about it at all? There is no question, right? But in this definition of ring, other structures fall, like polynomials, set of all polynomials, right? They form a ring, right? Set of matrices, right? They form a ring. Okay. Yeah. So usually this is the I mean, it's not a usual thing, but if you see. People generally start studying about rings and then they go to groups, because groups are like still more looser things, right? So groups can include lots of other things, like what you said, rock, paper, scissors kind of things can involve. So this ring is something little bit more structured. And there is another thing. So I gave this name of group and ring. A ring is called a field. So a ring is called a field if all its elements other than zero has an inverse, has a multiplicative inverse. Again, this multiplication is not our multiplication. Okay, and this zero is not our zero. I've given a definition of what is zero, right? Zero is operation 1's identity. Multiplication is operation 2. Okay, so this is a field. Okay, so now modular arithmetic. So this modulo n, we'll call it Zn. Set of this form. Now, is the set of matrices and addition and multiplication, is it a field?
No, I think everything will not have a multiplicative inverse.
We don't know, right? We have not yet explored it, right? Okay, fine. If you have, fine. Yeah. So that is one question. So what about Zn under modulo n? Modulo n and multiplication addition with this modulo n. Is this a field? We saw it as a ring, right? Additive inverse, all these things. Exist, right? What about
Multiplicative inverse?
so just a question in matrices? For matrices, if we take the plus operation as the usual matrix addition and the multiplication, the star operation as the usual matrix multiplication, then what is the identity element with respect to addition and what is the identity element with respect to multiplication?
Zero matrix is the identity element with respect to addition.
Correct. So multiplication?
What do you call that?
Identity matrix. The one along the diagonal.
One along the diagonal is the matrix. Is the identity matrix for multiplication. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So modular arithmetic will be a field. Will be a field, but the definition of multiplicative inverse is a little weird. But so the idea is that it should result in 1, right? The
Yes.
A into A inverse should result in 1. So
Exactly.
for example, if I'm doing mod 5, 8 mod 5 is 3. Times 2 mod 5 will give 1.
Correct.
So,
but wait. So 8 is not in Z5 in the first place, right? You should take an element that is in Z5. So
okay.
If you take Z5, fine. You just have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yeah. Now go ahead. Now you go ahead. So you took 3, right?
So 3.
3. Yeah. What is
so the multiplicative inverse of 3 is 2.
Exactly.
because 3 times 2 mod 1 will give 1. Mod 5 will give 1.
Correct. So what is your observation? So what is your conclusion?
So this will happen. Okay. I think this will happen in all cases, but I can't yet justify it. So
what is the inverse of 4? Multiplicative inverse of 4?
Multiplicative inverse of 4 would be 4 only.
Yeah. Multiplicative inverse of 4 is 4 only, right? So we will take. So you are taking Z5, right? We'll take Z6.
Okay.
The next. Okay, Z6. Now can you check if versus?
Yeah, in this case, 2, 3, and 4 will not have inverse.
My God, 2, 3, 4 will not have inverse. So it is a ring.
It's a ring and not a field.
Not a field, right?
Yeah. So Z prime numbers, Z of prime numbers will be ring.
Whoa, what a conjecture. What a conjecture. What a conjecture. So how do we analyze something like this?
Yeah.
No, but one thing is clear. If Zn has to be a ring, has to be a field, then can n be a composite number?
Maybe it can be odd.
It can be odd. Means
Yeah.
so
let's say Z9.
Z9, yeah. So Z9, is it a field? Will all elements have inverse? Just check it out. Very nice. That is another way of seeing, right? So Akka is saying primes. Very, very strong characterization. Sul is saying primes. Sorry, odd and evens.
So Z9, in Z9, 3 cannot have an inverse because no multiple of 3 can have a remainder of 1 with respect to 9.
Wow.
Okay, so being prime is necessary but not sufficient.
Excellent. Wow. Yeah. So prime being a prime Okay, so now they say mathematics is the music of reasoning, right? So if n is a composite number, can you give a reason why it cannot be a field?
Yeah. So if n is a composite number, its factors will necessarily be part of that set, and so the remainder of multiples of okay, let me formulate this properly.
Okay, let us say that n is equal to a into b. This is our usual multiplication. Okay, so in computer science, you have this operator overriding, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that came much before in mathematics.
Oh, okay. So yeah, here ring is not just with multiplication, right? It is sorry, field. Field said when we say multiplicative inverse, we don't mean our arithmetic multiplication. It can be any operation.
Yeah. So that plus and into could be any two operations that we can imagine of. That you can imagine.
Oh, okay.
That you can dream of. Here you're talking about modulo addition and modulo multiplication.
Right. Yeah.
So given a set, the operations, I mean, there are infinite ways of doing operations, right? Right. So, okay. So if n is a into b and a and b are not equal to 1, and we take Zn, can Zn be a field? So we have, so in the Zn we have, so this is a crazy universe, right? You have 4 into 4 is 1, 3 into 2 is 1 in, for example, in Z5, Z6. So anything can happen, right? Yeah. Things like this can happen, yeah. So when we see a field, which do you think is the, okay, can you name the largest field that you know of? The most comprehensive field that you know of?
Complex numbers, including.
Complex numbers. Oh, great. Okay. So complex numbers, we'll just come to, we'll just take a set of all numbers. Okay, set of all
numbers.
Irrational, rational, everything. Okay, that is a field, right? But here we are expecting a finite set to have all those properties.
Right.
Yeah. That is one thing. And matrices are like one of the most important rings, which in mathematics, matrices and polynomials are like the most important rings.
So to show that Zn where n is composite cannot be a field. So n is equal to a times b, where a comma b is not equal to 1.
Correct.
And let's say there exists an x such that a times x mod n is 1.
Okay. Okay.
Mod n is 1. A times x mod n is 1. Okay, that's okay. Given the
this implies
that implies
mod n is equal to 1.
Right. So then ax should be equal to some c times n plus 1.
Correct.
Now replace n with a times b. So we've got a times x is equal to c times a times b plus 1. So multiple of a plus 1, that cannot be.
Super.
So composite numbers cannot be fields, cannot make fields.
So this is not possible. Then what can we conclude? So this thing is not possible. So
multiplicative inverse will not exist in Z Zn where n is composite, and so Zn cannot be a field.
Right. So any comments? Right.
So n has to be prime.
So if at all it has to be a field, it has to be prime. Yeah. So will every prime be a field is the next question, right? Right. So before that, I'll just show one more power of putting down these rules. So now we'll just focus on numbers. Okay, we'll just focus on our good old numbers, and addition and multiplication is our operations. Okay. I mean, we'll just keep those things in our mind, the backdrop. Now I have a field. Okay, I have some field. It is written as f and plus and into. This is what is written traditional in algebra. Okay. So now I take an element A. Okay, and I take an element -1. Wait, what do I mean by -1? Any guesses? I asked you to keep, so this set R is a set of all numbers. Those are called real numbers.
The additive inverse of the multiplicative identity.
Super ga. Right. So one is basically, so now this is just any field. I'm just taking any field with addition and with two operations plus and minus. A is an element in the field. One is the multiplicative inverse, right? This is all convention. These are all conventions. One is the multiplicative inverse.
Multiplicative identity, right?
Oh, sorry. Multiplicative identity. And again, it's a convention that if you have to write the additive inverse of a number, we generally write it as, if A is a number, we write its additive inverse as minus A.
Minus A.
This is basically same as numbers, what we do, operation overloading. Okay. But just imagine, but just remember that this could be any set. Okay. So -1 is additive inverse of 1. Okay. Right. So all I have is 1 plus -1 is 0 from definition. Okay. So now just using the field axioms, can you tell me what is A into -1? So before going to this, we have these rules, right? -1 into -1 is +1, -1 into +1 is -1. We have those basic rules of multiplication, right? So what are those rules? Why are we having those rules? Have you thought about it before?
Yeah, there are conventions to make our algebra work.
Correct, right? To make algebra work. Oh, so if you don't have conventions, algebra won't work, is it?
As in, we have started working with things in certain way, and then these new negative numbers came in, and to continue working with working the way we've been working, these conventions were adopted.
So if we had adopted a different set of conventions, then we wouldn't be able to work the way we work. Like which all things will get affected? Any idea? Okay, yeah. So just keep this question in the backdrop again. So keep the question in the backdrop, and now, like and also look into this A into -1. We just have field axioms. That's it. Nothing more. Remember, it has that Fn plus is a abelian group. Sorry, Fn plus is a commutative group, and Fn into is also a group with inverse, and then there's a distributive property. Are those axioms sufficient to deduce what is A into -1 is a question.
So when we say field, so the definition says elements other than 0. So again, 0 there is the additive identity, is it?
Yeah.
So it's safe to assume that 0 times A, 0 multiplied by A will be 0.
Oh, that is not there in the axiom, Gar. It's not there in the axiom. That's not there in the axiom. But okay. But what is A plus A into -1? What can you say about it?
A plus A into -1.
A plus A into -1. This one. Or how will you lead to A into 0?
I was just trying something.
Okay, so A into 0, okay, fine. This is a question. So in a field, if I have A into 0, what can I say about it? Right, 0 is the additive identity and A is any element, right? So,
Yeah.
first of all, it is not necessary that the axioms have enough in them to answer all these questions, right? It might leave these questions undecided also, right? But interestingly, the axioms give a value for this.
Or A times 0.
Yeah, what? Yeah, A times 0. So what is A times 0 is? Now 0 I know is additive identity,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I also know that 0 is equal to 0 plus 0.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So I know A into 0 is same as A into 0 plus 0.
Okay.
So what is the consequence of this? I know that A into 0 now. Now here, what can I do here? A into 0 plus 0, what can I apply here?
It's distributive, so we can.
Exactly. A into 0 plus A into 0, right?
Oh,
So
which
A,
makes it the identity. Okay. Right. So A into 0 must be 0. Wow. Okay.
right? So now, first of all, in a field, right? So we do this cancellation, right? So suppose I have A plus B is equal to A plus C plus D, something. Okay. Now this is a field, and if I have this field equation, can I say that B equal to C plus D? Do the field axioms allow me to say that B equal to C plus D? Okay, this is one question, but yeah, just think about all these questions. Okay, so now yeah, so A into 0 is A into 0 plus A into 0, right?
Yeah.
So what can we say about the value of A into 0?
A into 0 is the additive.
Right, which is 0,
Which
right?
is 0. Yeah.
But then there are more questions, right? Can I have can a field have two identities?
Yeah.
All the questions come, right?
Yeah.
Right, so, but 0 is one. Okay, so 0 is one of the identities. Okay, we'll just keep this. A into 0 is 0, but yeah, there's one question is open. Can a field have two zeros? Okay, right. Okay, so now we know that A into 0 is 0, right? So this A into plus 1 plus A into minus 1, what would that reduce to if you apply distributive law?
0.
Why is that?
So by distribution law, it becomes A into plus 1 plus minus 1. That is 0 by because minus 1 is the inverse of.
Exactly, by definition.
Yeah.
Right. So I know that A into 1 plus A into minus 1 is 0, right?
Yeah.
Now what can I say about A plus A into minus 1? Same, right? This is also 0.
Yeah.
Right? Now what can I tell about A into minus 1?
It should be the inverse of A. So minus A.
It should be the inverse of A, right?
Additive inverse of A. Yeah.
So any comments?
Sure, I'm following not all, some percent of your conversation. No problem. You can carry on.
Right. Okay, fine. So now we see that in a field, in an arbitrary field, A into minus 1 is actually the additive inverse of A. Using the field axioms, we are able to show this, right? Okay, so now think. So you were saying, right? We have this convention, plus into plus is plus, plus into minus is minus, because we want to do the arithmetic or algebra in the same way, right? So if you change the convention, what will get affected? Okay, what are the things that we want to preserve, right? So just
Right.
think about it. So yeah. So what is the necessity of having these conventions? What is it helping us carry forward?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So if you think along these lines, you will realize why it is very useful to have all the useful facts of to pick out to single out all the useful facts of numbers and state it and put them together. And this will actually help us to study the number properties itself in a much more better way. Right? And then there are other questions like, so this approach, this algebraic approach of looking at numbers itself is like very useful. For example, we have in our real numbers, okay, a minus b plus c. So addition, subtraction, all these have concrete meanings, right? We write it as a minus b minus c, right? So first of all, why is it true in our numbers? Can we justify that? That is one question. In a field, what can we tell about a minus b plus c? To the field axioms, answer this question. Okay, and so so this is in our numbers, in our real numbers. Okay, this is in the field. Okay, so does this, and in the real numbers, addition, multiplication have concrete meanings, right? They have meanings associated with them, right? So now, if there is any result in field, how does it? I mean, okay, how does it affect the meaning in this real numbers? Yeah, I not framed the question properly, but yeah. So this field theoretic viewpoint of real numbers, is it allowing us to better look at the properties of numbers? That is another question. Okay, now for example, this a minus b plus c is equal to a minus b minus c. If you're just restricting ourselves to positive numbers, right? Then is this a convention? Okay, or even if you include the negative numbers also, but positive numbers, and we'll just take whole numbers. If you just take whole numbers, right? Then a minus b plus c is equal to a minus b minus c. Is this a convention or is it a law?
No, it is a law.
It is a law. Right, so Sunil, how are you saying it is a law?
Actually, you can prove it. Minus of b plus c is minus b minus c.
Right. So, yeah, you have an answer?
No.
Yeah. This will take some. Yeah, you think and tell. But yeah, this is not a convention, right? This is not a convention. A minus of b plus c is clearly not a convention. But minus 1 into plus 1 is minus 1. This is a convention that we have followed. True, for some reason. Okay, but this is not a convention. Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, think about all these rules that we have in numbers. Okay. See why these hold. So here we'll just take these two. One is the first convention, that multiplication convention, and this one, a minus of b plus c. Think about it, and also like see if these hold in a field. Okay, and see if these two things support each other or enhance the understanding in one. Yeah. Right. So these are, we have got lots of questions. And yeah, the best entry into algebra is through matrices. There is no doubt about that. And yeah, we had started the study of matrices, and the question 2468 is also linked to the study of matrices. We saw that, right?
Yeah, we didn't quite solve it, no? We didn't answer that question.
Correct. We did not still answer this question. So I think this is the best place to stop here. Think about all these questions.